also some tree candles that can be made that can be broken up or stripped, and everything in the trailer can be. No? Something bassier?
Well, real musician.
Try each
We
one.
aim to please, madame. What do you want? There's a really big bass drum there, but it's quite heavy to carry. It's got a bassier sound, but it's also got weight.
Sermons of the She.
Just allow some spacious, some reflection every time we lay the stone, just because these animals probably haven't been honoured like this since they've gone extinct. The first life cairn we built was the first memorial for extinct species on the earth. So this is very special. We allow ourselves to think about what we've laid down.
From the Bahamas.
Bahamas burnout.
We are on the silver fairy trail, opens to the golden way of God. And I put my hands in yours and we keep on going. We are on this silver fairy trail, opens to the golden way of God.
Earth, when you look at it from where you're sitting, not with people. It's the shape of the sea and the land, it's the mountains, the rivers. Also, at a particular moment in time, when the continents were like that and the seas were like this, it catches a moment in time. At this particular moment, this is the shape of the Earth. And we're going to think about this Earth and maybe look at it in a slightly different way. So if we can tell the truth but tell it slant. I never quite saw it like that before.
The European lion. Saddleback Rodriguez giant tortoise.
John McInnes describes the shear in the tradition as being a metaphor for the imagination, for the imaginal realm, not the imaginary, but the imaginal, the mythos, the ground of being formed out of the poieses from the Greek for the making, the poetry of the origin of all things. The mythos, the mythical world. And that stands with the logos, the realm of the mind, of reason, of enlightenment. And we need both. We need to have one foot in this world, sorted, able to hold our lives together, able to wash our face, get a skill, be useful in the world. And the other foot in that mythical, where the magic comes in. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream.
But you're going to gradually hone in and come to a place, one spot on that earth. And when you get to that spot, I want you to imagine that you've arrived when there are no people. No people have arrived yet. So come to this spot, it may be a spot you know well, find a place on there, and you've landed before those apes came down from the trees and started knocking two stones together. You've arrived sometime then. And find your place, and think about that place, but just see the shapes of the land and the sea, and you've arrived before any human beings got there. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you touch?
verily, 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 life is
Skiing. Finally, far too late. I went with my husband and his two children, my stepdaughters. We all went to France to ski. And we were kind of going down this hill, and I realised I'd been talking when the instructor described how to stop, which was bad. I was sort of thinking, well, I guess I'll just sort of pick it up from everybody else. But it's hard to kind of keep up and keep looking at other people to see what they're doing. And in the course of this, I saw at the bottom, there was a wee lassie at the bottom of the hill. And I thought, oh no, because I was kind of heading for her. And the more I was looking at her, the more I seemed to be heading for her. And I was trying to kind of weave this way and that way, but with zero skill, I wasn't getting very far. So finally I had to kind of fling myself to the side to not hit her. Dunted my head, got no sympathy, whatever. But afterwards, Rosie, my incredibly insightful stepdaughter, said, she said, did you not hear what the instructor said to you? And I said, well, you know, evidently not. She said, he said to you, just look where you want to go and the skis will follow. So where were you looking? Now, to me, this was one of these moments like a bolt from the blue, you know, where this 12-year-old child who had the kind of, you know, insight sometimes of a 91-year-old, had just about summed up the whole of life in one little observation. The trick of the thing is that you look where you want to go. You don't look at what you want to avoid, otherwise you sail towards it. And actually, I think in life that's absolutely true. You know, beware where you throw your energy, because you will end up becoming attached to it, and it will become your destination, because you spend so much time thinking you want to avoid it. And what I needed to do then was look into the blue yonder. I needed to look into space. I needed to have the courage not to look at what I'm wanting to avoid all the time, but to look into this new thing, this new direction I didn't previously want to go in, that currently might not even have anything populating it to catch my eye. That's what I needed to do to avoid her. To me, there's lots of things that are like metaphors for how much we don't get. That we've got phenomenal resource in this country. The chief of which is us. And that's the one we most don't get. The biggest difficulty I think the Scots have got is a kind of conviction that basically the best left. You may get this in various forms. I got it absolutely in words of one syllable from my mother, who got it from her grandparents. And it is this fear that, you know, when the going got very rough in Scotland, the tough got going and left this place because the deal was crap. If you stayed here, you didn't get land, you didn't get a chance, you didn't get a start, you stayed where you were, you watched your back, you tugged your forelock. That was how you worked, generally speaking. And people for whom that was not a comfy fit decided to leave. The worry amongst a lot of Scots has been that the best did do that. And that the rump are the folk who are left. Hello, rump. Now, the time that I've spent in the Nordic nations has convinced me a couple of things, which is actually that the capacity of the Scots is every bit as high as the capacity of people in the Nordic nations. The only difference is that the governments have failed to trust and empower people in Scotland. And I can sit down now, because that's it. And behind that story, actually, in some respects, is a kind of veil of tears, because the impact it's had on us is visceral and palpable. Actually, we can reverse that. That's not in with the bricks. We can change it. If we can begin to see that actually we already have all we need to know. We already have all we need to have. It's all sitting here in this place. We just need to figure out how to run it differently.
Blue stag beetle. The dodo.
origin myth of the Shia, told in the Irish Book of Invasions. And in these stories, there is little or no distinction between Ireland and the west coast Gaelic-speaking areas of Scotland. And according to these Irish origin myths, the Shia were the Tuath de Danann, the people of the mother goddess Annan, the original inhabitants of this earth. But when we, the Milesians, arrived many thousands of years ago, bringing with us our weapons of steel and our axes that would cut down the forests, the Tuath de Danann went underground into the Shia, the fairy hills, and there underground they remain to this day. And it is said that great bards like Carolan, the greatest harpist of all time, or the McCrimmon pipers, gained their art by going and sleeping on a shean, on a fairy hill. And it is said that if you so do, you will either be given the bardic gifts of poetry, music, song, art, or you will go mad. And the truth is, both run hand in hand. We are not the fairies, we are human beings. We need to understand our cosmological place in the universe. And if we act like we are the fairies, if we think we can go into the Shia and dance all night and forever and a day with impunity, our outward selves, our sorted selves, our rational selves will become more and more emaciated. And how many artists do you know and musicians do you know who lose the plot because they're doing the inner creative work, but they're not got the control of that pin to hold it together in an outward sense.
And he hasn't even tied his legs, he's standing at the finish line when they're finalising the places. I wanna kiss the clouds, wanna give my soul to the people and I wanna give it back, wanna give my soul to the people now. The game's dead, the party's over, Reed's bringing the flair and playing the field like Barcelona.
Richard Rohr, the great American Franciscan spiritual teacher. He says in the first half of life, our task is to build the vessel out of which we are going to live, to build our ego selves, to develop our identities, to get ourselves sorted, to be able to be an effective part of the community. But if we only do that with our lives, we become like those old men millionaires that you see on TV, trying to control the world, Lucifer-like. Because they can't see past their money, they can't see past holding on to their power, ever building their power, because they can't be filled. Because they try and they try and they try, but as the great English theologian said, they can't get no satisfaction. My wife has now entered at the back, which is why I didn't sing that. So the task of the second half of life, in psycho-spiritual time, not in chronological time, some people as children are quickly into the second half of life. Other people never get there. Is to live out of that container. And that's when you walk in the mythos. And that's when you become an artist who can not only hold yourself together at a level of sufficiency, simple sufficiency, but can help to hold the community together as well. Now these are the teachings of the Shia.
Uncontrolled lending and spending, constant taking or breaking and rule bending. One man's man is another man's appetizer, but the voice of the poor for them is a constant reminder. Very few people are listening apparently, but I'll still stand here and make my plea to humanity. The world's decaying rapidly, people are cracking on each other, disgusting and out of apathy. Very few people are listening apparently, but I'll still stand here and make my plea to humanity. Starting to feel the world's agony, that's where these words and sentiments are expressed infallibly.
When I was 15, I went to an adventure camp on the Isle of Mull called Camas, which a number of people in this room will have heard of and will be smiling inwardly at the moment. And I'm just very briefly going to describe Camas to you. You can't really get Camas unless you go there, so I encourage you all to go there. It's on Mull, and Mull sits off Oban, off the west coast of Scotland, and Camas is off the southern tip of Mull. And so you have to take a ferry, obviously, to get to Mull, and then you drive across a single track road. So all the time you're being forced to slow down. And then to get to Camas, you either have to go in by sea, or you have to walk down the track. And the track is about just over a mile, and it's across a peat bog. It's a beautiful track. And as you're approaching Camas, you go through a little pass, and you drop down into Camas, which is an old quarrying station and salmon fishing station. So there's a row of quarry houses that are beautiful stone quarry houses, and then there's the quarry sitting across the other side of the bay, so it's kind of nestled. And you come over this crest and down into Camas. And walking over that crest, every time I do it, it's like walking through the wardrobe in Narnia. You know you've arrived somewhere special. It was about taking people out into the outdoors, into raw, wild places, and seeing what sort of impact that had on them, and what it did to people's perspectives, and what it did to people's conversations, what it opened up. That experience at Camas really altered and affected my life as a young guy growing up. It impacted my direction. It was a place that has stayed remarkably dear to me, and it's a place, as I say, that's had a significant impact on my life. And you'll all know places like that. I think we're in one of those places right now in Wiston. Camas had a huge impact on my life, and it shaped where I went work-wise. And I went off exploring in my life and through my 20s, looking to get the best of that I could find. Then I found it educationally in Edinburgh. Then it took me a long time to find it work-wise. That led me all over the world. But I eventually found it work-wise in New Zealand. In New Zealand at that time, it was still really pushing boundaries and going out, and risk was still quite a high part of what we did. And going out into very, very wild, remote places for a long time, and some really amazing activities as well. People have different ideas of what outdoor education is. For me, it's my approach to the world. It's my approach to everything. It's about how we interact as human beings, how we relate to each other, how we relate to the world around us. Yeah, it's about relationships, really. So the reason I'm telling you all that is because Camas impacted my life, and Camas led me on that journey, and Camas led me to New Zealand and to outdoor education in New Zealand, Outward Bound New Zealand, and that's where I came across Whakapapa. Say it again. 1, 2, 3. And again. 1, 2, 3. It's a good word, isn't it? It's a great word. And I invite you to say it as much as you want today. Yeah. Let's do it just for a moment. Let's just say Whakapapa. Thank you. Has anyone come across the idea of Whakapapa? Yeah? Yeah. A few people have the idea in their head and know what it is. Whakapapa carries on that tradition of cutting through and saying, okay, I see you, I'm here, I'm right here with you, I see you. Who are you? Where have you come from? What is it that's impacted you and brought you to this place? So, you know, often when we introduce ourselves, I would say, well, I'm Neil, I live in Glasgow, I've worked in various places, and I've got a couple of brothers and a sister, and that's the kind of introduction we would do. And in fact, that's not Whakapapa. It's part of Whakapapa, but Whakapapa is much more about, well, I'm Neil, and at 15, Camas had a huge impact on me, and this is why. It shaped my life, and then at 20, I met John, who knocked me down this way because he'd just come through a divorce, and he told me about relationship and so on. It's about exploring the people that have had a huge turning impact on your life. It's about exploring the land that's shaped you. So again, like for me, it was those places, the roughness of those places, the rawness, the sea. It's important, and for me to be near the sea. It's important for me to be on a small bit of land. I struggle. I've lived in Canada and I've lived in Australia, and I struggle with the size of it. I need to know my place. So that's another thing that shaped me. And it's about maybe the rivers that have impacted you, the mountains, the animals, the places and the people. And that could be relatives, it could be friends, it could be people that you don't even know that you've read about. So it's about the key things, the essence of the people and things and places that have swayed and knocked and driven and taken you on the journey that has led you to being in this room right now, right here. And so we're gonna look at Whakapapa, but before you get to Whakapapa, you look at hongi. Who knows what hongi is? Yeah? A few people know what hongi is as well. So Dukes and I are going to demonstrate hongi. So hongi. So hongi is about saying, and even, I've done a big loads, but it's powerful, and it's about saying, I'm here right now, and I see you, and I share my breath of life, and that, for Maori people, that's the breath of the soul and the breath of life. And there's not much you can do about being anywhere else when you're looking straight into somebody else's eyes with your noses touching. You are right there. So it cuts through. Doesn't matter what was happening yesterday, doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow. It's about saying, boom, here I am, and I see you, and I respect you. And there's something hugely powerful about that.
Okay, so I was hitchhiking through Turkey, and this family stopped and picked me up, and they said they gave me like a bottle of water and a bag of penny sweets, and then they drove me to a friend who spoke English, and she said they want to know if you want to go and swim in a mountain river with them and pick hazelnuts. And then we did that, and then they said, well, are you hungry? Why don't you come back to the village with us, and then we'll drop you off later on where you want to go. So I came back, and they asked me to sing, and then we ate with the whole village, and then they said, well, why don't you come to a wedding with us tonight and play there? So I was just really inspired by the kindness of strangers, and I went to the spare room of Selçuk, the host, to have a nap before the wedding, and I wrote this song. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go on! It's got a bit for you to sing as well if you want. You'll hear it here.
Fantastic, thanks guys. That's amazing. I suspect we'll be hearing more from these guys over the weekend. I hope so. But that's brilliant.
Pyrenean ibex.
I'm born, the lost forever, of the seeming.
Laying the stone for the native white beams. So hopefully it's when we build this life can, it becomes, we call it a new face of the world, and I hope that it can remain here for a long time now. We need to feed it, so I'll speak to the owners of the lodge to make sure that it's protected, that it's not going to be vandalized. There's always the issue of that it remains here for a very long time in the future.
But I think two things that came up in our group that I was really shocked by was emptiness and feeling alone, despite all of this activity in life. So that made me stop and think.
I spent one night on top of a mountain with a friend, and there was 2 hours of sunset come sunrise, and there was mountains for 100 miles in every direction. No people, no roads, no houses. We were probably the 5th or 6th people that were to be in that place. Sitting on this mountaintop, when the sun eventually reappeared from behind the mountains, it struck the snow and turned it pink. Bright pink, and then it gradually faded as the sun rose a bit more. And it was like being at the birth of the world. It was like being in a place before humans. I almost expected a volcano to erupt or dinosaurs to come striding down the valley. And it was actually quite scary at the time because it felt alien and other to me. Going somewhere where nobody or very few people had been before was totally different. And it affected me very deeply because it was an encounter with the other, with the wild, with nature in the raw, totally free from human control or even impact. So my journey's been taking me a long way. I had what I call my spiritual awakening. I'm an explicitly spiritual person. In 1974, when I was a student at university, where I came to the knowing that there's an inner part of me. I'm not just a body and a mind that has emotions. There's an inner part of me that resides in this, and that what my life is really all about is discovering my true identity and allowing that to shine forth in my life, in my work, in my relationships, in all that I do. We know what the problems of the world are. We know what the issues are. Turn on your television, walk down the streets, look around you. But we also know what the solutions are. The bit that's missing is the commitment to put the solutions into practice. And it's missing on a collective level, governments, big businesses, nobody's paying attention to the real issues and acting on them. But crucially, it's also missing on a personal level. And I had to recognize that for myself. I've always carried this dream of how I imagined the world could be. And I always felt, many years before I went to Findhorn, I'll have to wait till all the world's problems are solved and then I can get on and live that dream. And being at Findhorn, it's not an easy place to live, it's a challenging place. And I was challenged. That assumption of mine was challenged. What am I waiting for? I stood up and said, I commit myself to launch a project to restore the Caledonian forest. And that was the defining moment, because it had been in there for me a while, in my head, in my thoughts. I felt my calling, but I'd not done anything about it. And in that moment, I said, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And it's become my life work. And in that moment, crucially, when I look back now, I had nothing at my hands or at my disposal to achieve that goal. I had no education. My degree was in electronics. I abandoned it. I had never studied biology or ecology or forestry. I had no access to land. I had no funding. Externally, I had nothing. But I had the most important thing. I had the inner connection, the passion, and I had enough background and training to know that if I follow my passion, that is the key to finding my power as an individual person. And that power is what will enable me to fulfill my purpose. The 3 P's: passion, power, and purpose.
when we engage in the arts, I believe we have a duty to ask, is our work narcissistic? Is it merely self-indulgent, extracting the next grant we can get to keep ourselves going as artists? Or is our work prophetic? Is our work, as the bardic tradition would say, it should be, speaking to the condition of the people, effecting healing in the community, bringing about transformation, heralding transformation when the time has to come? I believe this is why the work of artists in the fullest sense of that word, most of you here, if not all of you here, will be artists in that sense of the word, is so crucial in tackling the issues of our times: climate change, war, poverty, etc. And I believe we should be asking, what is our art for? Is it giving life? Is it giving service? And this is why, in this summer of independence in Scotland, so many artists, certainly the vast majority of Scottish artists, which includes those based in Scotland, those who have chosen to make their home here, are working on material that is related to what is happening in our politics. And the question arises because you listen to the politicians talking about it. This is not about Alex Salmond. This is not about the SNP. This is not about nationalism as understood in normal, narrowly politically defined words. This is about expressing what it means to be a people. This is about healing what is broken in the community. And I believe that this is as important for people in England and the rest of the UK and beyond as it is for Scotland. It's important that people there understand deeper what is happening from Scotland so that the same fire can be lit.
And Trees for Life today is an organisation that has grown out of that commitment. 2 years ago we planted our 1 millionth tree. In 2008 we raised £1.65 million and purchased 10,000 acres of land at Dundragon Estate. We have a staff of 16. We have thousands of volunteers who come and work with us, and you can see the trees that were planted in the early years now that are over 20 years old, taller than the ceiling in this room, are supporting insects. And those insects are food for birds. So when I walk through one of our early planting areas, I now find black grouse there because they like young forest, they like forest edge, they're an endangered species, and habitat for those has come about. I wasn't thinking about black grouse in 1986, I was just thinking about we've got to save this forest and help some new trees grow. But whenever we take a step to heal something in nature, planting a tree, it's a profound act. The simple act of planting a tree is creating a whole future ecosystem. The insects return, the birds return, the animals return, and the birds bring more seeds, so the whole process snowballs. And you get this reweaving or reknitting of the web of life. And what's happened along the way that's really interesting for me is the effect that has on people as well. Because I've found my power in doing that. You can see I'm 5'4", interesting enough, we're all about the same height, you know.
This is our time.
I'm not a big person, but I've discovered I have unlimited power at my disposal. And I'm no different to any of us in that regard, because we all have unlimited power at our disposal. And that is the power from within. It's the power of the heart. It's the power of our passion, the power of our inspiration. It is the essential power of the universe. We're here, I believe, to learn how to wield that power in human form. Guided by the values of the heart, guided by love, for the benefit of all beings. And my learning, and I'm on this journey still, is there are no limits, except the limits that I still haven't cast off, that I was indoctrinated with through my induction into modern industrial culture. And those limits are, say, well, you have to have an education, you have to have money, you have to have background, you have to have connections, you have to have experience, you have to be good enough, all those things. All wrong. What I need, and what we all need, is to feel the passion, the pulse of power that's bubbling away in our hearts. Everybody has that. Not everybody has it for trees. Some people might have it for children, or education, or animals, or whatever. But everybody is passionate about something. And the thing I want to say to you is, what is your big dream? If there were no restrictions and limits in the world, what would you do? What would you dedicate your life to? That's exactly what you should be doing. Don't let anything stand in your way, because there are no true obstacles. Working with restoration connects people with the land, it connects people with healing, it connects people with hope, because it is a work of hope. I will never see the trees that I've planted reach maturity. My grandchildren, if they live long enough, might do. It's a work of hope. And it's a work that reconnects us with the deepest and most important qualities with each other. And my big vision stretches beyond the Caledonian forest. It stretches beyond Scotland. My big vision is the restoration of our planet. The first shared task for all humanity. We've never had a shared task that transcends boundaries, nations, religions and cultures before. There's never been anything that's brought all people together. Now the time is right for that. And that, to me, has to be helping our earth to heal. So my big vision is that the 21st century is looked back upon as the century of restoring the earth, when we turned away from the path of destruction and actively engaged positively in helping the earth return to richness, diversity, health and sustainability. And that, I believe, offers the basis for an entirely new human culture that would be applied differently in different ecosystems in different areas of the world, that would transcend that by having everybody dedicated to the same thing, the one thing that we all share in common: our home, planet Earth, our wounded world, which is in desperate need of human love and care and revitalization.
Ole se hoyo, 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 ole se hoyo.
Now do you see the great Ishka, waterhorse, twin kelpies, towering vaster even than their kindred on Loch Ness? From banks betwixt the Forth and Clyde, and rising likewise spirited upon page 1 of chapter 1, the book of Scotland's future. Ishka, harbinger of doom, and that as law, as dharma of our destiny unfurling, a kairos time, our turning point of transformation that wells up from lochs and rivers, even now canals, it seems, that stir and flow and carry ships on currents deep discerned by artists, bards and other prophets who perceive the signs that speak unto the shifting humours of these times. I tell you, Scotland's name will not go down in history for the title of our currency, or scrapping of the bedroom tax, or wealth of oil, or even Europe, whether in or out or round about. Scotland's name will be a light, a healing of the nations, the day we set off trident. The day we press red button of dispatch, each one of us within the polling booth, no cruel explosion, but a soft implosion within the very politics they thought this evil would protect. Sent back again, sent back by us to think again. Repent! 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 Freedom is a noble thing. We'll hae nae thermonuclear warheads here. Away! 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 Thus speaks the great Ishka on its Easter rising day.